but we had to be willing and we had to invite it, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. And so, as you were in a position where you had a sense of, you know, this of the course, of a sense of a direction, or, you know, a kind of a relationship to something other than yourself that you could move with. As you then continued in your own path and your own life, how did that change? How did that change things? I mean, your life is what I mean. You know, how did it impact you to know that there was a purpose, and there was potentially there was an opportunity to learn and grow within that purpose?
Well, it's given my whole life a purpose. I think I talked earlier about it having a different context, but in addition to the context, there was a different purpose to my life. I see now that everything, I mean, when things are going well, when I'm happy and things are good, well, that's good. When things are going badly, when there's a problem, when there's a difficulty, when there's a challenge, that's also something very positive, because it can be used as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for forgiveness, an opportunity to change my mind about myself or about another person or the situation. So everything that life throws up is another step forward towards my eventual awakening. That's how I see it. So there's no, so nothing's ever wasted. People kind of, wonder what life's all about, as I did, and now that's completely changed for me. I know I know about the meaning of life, and it's not 42.
It's 43 actually, but anyway.
Okay, yeah. So that's huge actually for me.
Yeah, and so you, at this point, you were still working in the oil industry?
I gave that up about 10 years ago, actually.
Okay. But at this point in the story, I mean, so as you were starting to apply the...
I was.
Yeah. So the moment of kind of deciding, this was something you were going to spend your life doing. Was that a moment, or was it a series of events, or...?
I think I was getting closer to that gradually, but actually it was a series of events. Basically I'm a coward. I didn't want to take the leap from having that security of the oil industry to take that leap into the unknown of doing something which, I suspected was not going to make me very much money. But something happened. I got the details of which are that I got invited to be an expert witness in a legal case, and it was an oil related. The case was related to a guy who was a geologist, and I'd gone through a similar career path that he was going to go through. He'd been involved in an accident. He'd injured his had completely lost the use of one of his arms, and so he was seeking compensation from an insurance company, and I was just asked to go into court and give my experience of working in the oil industry as a geologist, going on the career path. And I got an amazing sum of money for doing that. So I thought, well, I only need to do this for a few days a year, and I got it made. So that was the reason I gave up the oil industry.
Okay.
And I'd never had another experience like that. I've never been called to be an expert witness. I registered, but I guess there's not that many court cases.
Okay. Unfortunately.
But you see, there was a bigger plan.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware
that makes
of.
Sense. Yeah.
That's what it took to get me to make that step. I needed that, what I thought was going to be a safety net, but actually it wasn't, because, as I say, I never got another case like that. But I thought that was my safety net, so that allowed me to take this step. But yeah, there was a greater plan.
Yeah.
I think.
So then, you mentioned a bit earlier on in the interview, you mentioned that A Course in Miracles is really about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I'm curious just a bit more about that, and about how that's been practically usable in your own life, or people that you've met through your work that you've done, and how people have actually been able to use that in real life situations.
Yeah. What I could do is I could give you 3 examples, one from my own life, and 2 from that sort of been on the news that everyone will have been aware about. On the side when you've got to look at situations where someone does not apply forgiveness.
Okay.
And the effects of that. We talked about the poison that we give to us, whether we take, we expect the other person to die. A classic example of that, in my mind, the one I often quote actually, is remember the case. I hope this is not too controversial. The case of Myra Hindley, when they wanted they wanted to let her out of jail, and whenever this subject came up and on a TV discussion or on, it was up in the courts or whoever was going to decide, they would bring on one of the mothers of one of the kids that was murdered, and do you think Myra Hindley should be let out of jail? And this woman would sit there and go, I think that woman should rot in hell for what she did, Yeah. And this is 40-something years after the event, and as tragic, as awful as it was, and how you can understand how she would feel like that, I thought, every bit, if not more tragic than the actual murders, was the fact that she'd been carrying around that complete hatred for 40 years, completely understandably. But really, this was the poison that was killing her.
Yeah, and the emotional toxicity of that, and the impact on trust, and I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, yeah.